Good evening, Sam.
You're gonna start right with just like a good morning, Mallory. Just hit the table and like straight into it.
Good evening, Sam. I dropped my phone.
You did it again.
No, I'm doing it on purpose. Well, isn't that a
I
Tracy
know.
Flick move? Just
To hit the table? No, perfection. Oh yeah, to mess up when you're trying to be like prim and proper.
to just kind of like slam to kind of get people's attention, and then like, I think that the best solution. Yeah, I don't know. Welcome back to Nobody
Mallory,
Leaves.
Welcome back. I know the answer.
Welcome back to Nobody
Anybody?
Leaves, podcast where not even anybody is allowed to leave, even at all. We're here to talk about election, but before we do, as always, we like to just talk about whatever nonsense, what's been going on our weeks. Sam, how's it been going?
You know, I'm vibing. I'm getting better at this podcast because last week I was up until like 2:30 finishing Andor because I didn't know how long it was. This week I finished election at like 11:45. A respectable
Nice.
adult time to go to bed. So
Yeah.
there you go.
It could have to do with the lengths of the two respective recommend. That might be related. I
Are
feel
you
like
saying that I'm pitching like really long things and you pitched me a movie? I don't know about that.
I just feel like the math. If you started them both at the same time, you'd probably end at about 11:45 versus 2:30, maybe.
I'm not sure
but-
about that.
But yeah.
Mallory, how's your week
it's been
been?
good. It's been good. I've been I've had a lot more free time this week because I didn't have to watch a really, really long series. So I feel like music's been the thing. So breaking news. Vampire Weekend released an album in October and no one told me, and none of the people I followed cared. And that sucks. And I feel like I've gotten really far away from my roots. That was kind of my feeling, like finding that out.
Mallory,
and,
I knew that they had released an album and I don't listen to Vampire Weekend.
That's crazy. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I think like just Chromacopia kind of swamped just about everything going on last October. But yeah, now that I have it, I'm like terrified to like, I haven't listened to it still. I downloaded it and I put it on my phone for like a week, but I'm like, the last album they did was like after like a almost like 8 to 10 year hiatus probably. And like leading up to that album, like I was just listening to the whole discography like so in depth, like really getting back into the zone. And then the album came out and then I just like really made a meal of it. And I'm like, I don't feel ready for more Vampire Weekend. I feel like I need to like, I haven't done the prerequisites, you know? So, but it's been a good week because I've been listening to old Vampire Weekend stuff, and now old Vampire Weekend stuff is their newer album, including that as well. So it's like, you know, it's nice.
So you're doing your homework. You're preparing to accept the new album into your heart.
I'm gearing up. You know, it's honestly, I feel like the outfit today is kind of giving like just the preppy kind of like weird collegiate kind of look.
Northeastern.
Yes.
A little bit. Even though this movie is like Midwestern, I think. It's Nebraska.
Totally. I mean, it's just America. I don't know the difference, but listen.
Well, Mallory, why are you worried about it? Because every time a new album comes out from an artist you like, it's your favorite album from that artist. Like,
well,
almost every time.
So here's the thing.
Chromacopia, still your favorite?
I love
Checking
Chromacopia. I think it might still be my favorite. I listened to it like some like last week, and like I don't know. There's something about like just the like you gotta get dog barks on your songs. Like DMX taught everyone like that's what you gotta have, you know.
I understand.
But yeah, I don't know. I was curious. I wanted to ask you about your understanding and perception of Vampire Weekend as a like I don't think I've ever tried to push it on you.
I have had it's very much like the indie choice of the 2000s, right? Or the 2010s specifically.
Yeah.
Where I know a lot of people who are really into it. I know vaguely the backstory of like the guy was making a play about vampires in college or something, and that became the first album. Like I know that it like started as a joke and then became pretty successful and had the trilogy of albums that people love, and then have had a few projects since that people also love. Like I know I'm circling the drain of actually listening to them without ever listening to a song.
That's so interesting. I'm continuously, because I've kind of been asking people that, because I'm like, I feel like I don't really talk to people that, like, Vampire Weekend is just something I enjoy, like, on a morning when I'm drinking tea and, like, getting ready for the day, and, like, it's just, like, my own. I haven't evangelized much for it, so I feel like I don't have a good perception of, but obviously they're popular. I don't know.
I'm getting closer to like trying them out because I've been listening to more indie music probably than anything these last few years. Like I haven't been. I would say hip hop is like my primary or like the prominent genre in my life, but I haven't, with a few exceptions, haven't been totally like jazzed about the hip hop scene for like 3 or 4 years. And so I've definitely been moving more into like the singer-songwriting, sad indie zone. I listen to a lot of Japanese
stuff.
Breakfast, who also
that was another one. So, because you and one of our other friends were talking about Japanese Breakfast in the group chat, and then I added a song by them, and like just one. I planned on adding all of them, and then I only added one and listened to it, and I liked it a lot. It was Mega Circuit.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite track on the new album.
Yeah, so I'd been enjoying that, but yeah, like I definitely feel like that's a good one to get into. And the other one that's like relevant to stuff we talked about on the podcast was there's a song playing at the end of Severance called Poison Oak. That hits, like that is good, like. It's one of those songs. The way you know it's a good song is like really quiet for like a long time, and then it goes like that's like how you make good songs that are all like emotional. That's a good one.
I have a couple of songs off of that soundtrack, specifically season 2 that I've been listening to. There's one, Different Today, I think is what it's called. It's very good. It's again in that same vein of like sort of pop, sort of indie. A good time. Obviously, every like Severance song is some weird play on like being out of your mind or what have you. I feel like that show is just gonna. Yes, that song. Pretty good song. Good to run to.
Early in the year, Lil Nas X like posted a reel with like Heads Will Roll by Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Do you know that? Like you definitely.
I don't know anything about this band except for that song.
The off with your head, like that really carried me through January. That's such a good song.
I understand.
I don't know.
But yeah, as far as my week goes, I have watched a few other movies. It's been kind of a movie heavy week. I saw Warfare, the new Alex Garland film, which is basically like an hour and a half in Iraq in 2006, and it's like. It's pretty heavy. It's not a very feel-good time at the movies. And I was pretty lukewarm on it, but it's also, like, immaculately shot and executed. Like, they did exactly what they were trying to do, which is essentially put you in the mindset of what it feels like to be in a very confusing war in 2006. It's all, like, shot in real time, essentially. So, like, you're spending 90 minutes in like a horrible situation, and then the movie ends, and the movie ends as soon as you leave that situation. But it kind of stuck to that idea too strongly for me, to where I can't name you any of the characters. They're all based on real people. I can barely tell you what happened in it, which is kind of the intention, because it's kind of getting into like both like the larger political quagmire of the Iraq war, but then also just like the fog of war effect of being like in a very intense situation. There's a lot of like complicated radio calls and jargon and people trying to determine how to get from one street to the other for like an hour, and it's really impressively done, but it kind of left me cold.
Sounds nightmarish. I mean, like
it's also
very much is the point.
Incredibly loud. Oh my god! It was like gunshots and screaming, and I was sitting like next to a speaker in my theater, and so I left the movie with like my ears ringing. Like this was, oh man,
Yeah, I feel like it almost feels like you're like one of those songs where it's like the point is to be annoying or too loud, or it's like. or it's like they could have like come on and just be like, war sucks, like banging a drum. It's like that's what it feels like to be in war. It's like not to belittle this project. I'm just saying, like, I feel like emotionally you might achieve a similar effect almost.
That's kind of how I felt about it, but I would say like the execution is better than that. Alex Garland's an interesting director and writer because he gets accused of that a lot, of being like very one note or irresponsible with the messages of his movies. Like I think he made the movie Civil War last year, which was more allegory than like realistic plot in a weird way. Like it was, a war is hell movie, but it took place in an American Civil War, which is a very like charged topic, and it came out during a election year. But then the details were kind of fuzzy, like, oh, Florida and Texas got together and formed an alliance, and you're looking at it like, well, that would never happen. But that's not the point, but it did muddy the message, I would say. I probably liked that movie better than Warfare, though, because I think it had some really interesting ideas. But yeah, he's definitely controversial as a director.
Interesting. You said it was a week of movies. Did you have any others that you were checking out?
Yes, but this one I'm just like, I didn't like it. I went and saw Vampire Hunter D, which is like an 1985 anime movie that was randomly playing at a theater near my house, and I was like, yeah, I'll try that. It was like a 40th anniversary for like through Anime Expo doing like a national release of this movie. It's old. There are times where it looks like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. And like it had some good vibes and it had some really good artwork as a still, but it was just a little too old for me.
Interesting. Well, we heard it here first. We're not a fan of Warfare, and we're not a fan of Vampire Hunter D. But I
would have rather listened to Vampire Weekend.
Yeah, I like the synchronization of us both doing vampire related media consumption during this week. It's the season, The
I know.
spring
I'm
is
getting
sprung.
really Halloween in April.
Yeah, the spring is sprung and like the young chicks are growing up, and just like all the old decrepit vampires gotta like feast down. Like this is the time,
It did have a big robot horse, which I appreciated. It was very cyberpunk for a vampire story.
That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I agree.
What does it look like? Does it look cool?
It just looks like a horse that is too big to be a horse. And then you're like, is that a robot? And then eventually you're like, it is a robot.
Wait, so it looks like a horse, but like it's painted brown or whatever?
But it's made of metal. Yeah.
Whoa, that's cool.
It's a really good... It's a good movie for like GIFs or like computer wallpapers, but in terms of like an actual movie and plot, like the plot's very simple and the action is pretty... Some of it's interesting, but most of it's pretty dull. And good thing I can say about it is it's pretty short, which I enjoyed.
Oh, that's nice.
But I was falling asleep in the theater a little bit. Like I was like, this is too slow for my TikTok adult brain, I guess.
I see. But you gotta keep supporting like the anime in Western theaters industry. Like you're
yes, I'm very passionate about that as an idea.
Yeah,
I mean
it's good. It's
chicken
cool.
Jockeys, I'm not gonna lie.
Chicken jockeys?
Do you not know about the chicken jockey meme? Oh man. The Minecraft movie is out this past like couple of weeks. And
I meant to. Okay, I got so mad. Wait, I mean, you can explain chicken jockeys, perhaps. Okay,
this
really
is more important. I want to hear this.
Wanted to watch the Minecraft movie with you on the podcast and go to theaters and watch the Minecraft movie, and in every country it came out like this past weekend, and only in Japan it was like delayed like 2 weeks. And I think I haven't looked into why, but my theory is that like, because Minecraft is like popular here, my theory is that there must be some other big release or movie or something, or they're timing it with something, because they want to like really make it hit in Japan. But like, oh man, that did ruin my day.
You were gonna make me go watch the Minecraft movie?
I was gonna make myself go watch the Minecraft movie. but then now that it's
a chicken jockey.
Yeah, now
freak out and throw popcorn and be annoying.
What is the chicken jockey?
You know a spider jockey in Minecraft where it's like a skeleton on top of a spider?
Oh, yeah.
They do that with a baby zombie and a chicken. And everyone in the theater screams chicken jockey. And it's become like a Rick and Morty Szechuan sauce joke where the joke is to just destroy the place you're in. And so people are like standing on each other's shoulders and throwing popcorn and ruining theaters and getting kicked out. And it's
that's
I'm
the
not gonna
revelation.
say that's good behavior, but it is very interesting.
That is like the voice of the people. They're like, fuck
Makes
this
for
movie.
a very funny 20-second clip, but then you think about like all the popcorn people have to sweep up, and you're like, oh, that's kind of a bummer.
It's very Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's just like forget the movie. Like we just have our own whole thing. Like I don't know. But yeah, no, it is like for the employees, like that fucking sucks a lot.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, people are treating it like, I've heard that comparison before of like, this is like the kids' Rocky Horror Picture Show where people are going in and like when the dumb line comes up, like people are shouting at the screen like pickaxe or diamond or whatever.
Whoa.
And then chicken jockey's the big one where if chicken jockey,
or like reply.
I think they say chicken jockey in the movie and then everyone just like erupts and it has become a big meme.
I would do anything. Why do I live in this dumbass country? I would do anything to be in a theater full of kids screaming chicken jockey. That is insane. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Wow. That's wild.
This has been Sam Explains a Meme to Mallory hour.
Yeah, this is like, well, because like, I feel like I've just missed out on all this stuff. Like, they were like, oh, Sonic the Movie 3 is coming out. And I'm like, I didn't know there was Sonic the Movie 2. And then like my friends were talking about as if they've seen Sonic the Movie 1. And I'm like, what? And then
Mallory,
the Joker.
There's a Sonic TV show that came out with Knuckles, featuring Knuckles, called Knuckles.
As Idris Elba?
Yeah.
Are you actually serious? Idris Elba made a Knuckles?
I'm dead serious. There's a Knuckles show.
What a fall from grace, dude. He was in such cool movies. Did you see his Gold commercial?
I did. That's the Gold documentary.
Remember when they were like, Idris Elba's
tearing it down too.
They're like, Idris Elba's gonna be like he needs to be like the first Black James Bond or whatever, and like now he's just like Knuckles and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Do you know that he releases music under the tag Idris? And he had like this massively popular song in the Peloton community that has like a lot of trumpet in it.
Good?
There's a lot of Idris lore. It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It made it to my running playlist.
We need like Idris watch. Like we need to see what he's doing. Here's the thing.
Hour.
I think I just phrased things in a pretty mean way, but like obviously he's just trying to cut a check. The gold thing is the thing that I'm like, okay, well that's like transparently a scam. Like that's mean, but like, you know, famous actor does kids movie. It's like, you know, get the bag.
No, there was a period where he was like one of the most like rising star actors, and then he's done a lot of like TV, and he's done, like less good TV than it used to be on. Like instead of The Wire, he's doing Hijack, and he's doing like straight to Netflix crap.
Yeah.
And then yeah, his movie output has not been as exciting. Like he's in like the Fast and Furious spinoff, and he's in Sonic, and it's like, Idris, I kind of want you to be doing cooler things than this.
Yeah.
You were Stringer Bell. Everyone loves that show.
We put too much on him. It's too much pressure.
I guess so.
But you know, sometimes the pressure and the fires of expectation can create some interesting results. Sam, it's time for an election.
You could. It was right there with the Minecraft and the diamond. Like you could have. You could have landed the plane.
Like what do you mean landed the plane
or something?
Oh. I mean, it just came to me. Like the divine kind of spoke to me and just kind of handed me that. So I don't know. If
are you gonna vote for chicken or are you gonna vote for jockey?
I'm gonna vote to tear this shit down.
Yeah, it did not take me long to find your favorite character in Election while I was watching.
Who cares about this stupid election?
Let's talk election, Sam. I had you watch this movie this week. It's a movie that, as I stated previously, I watched randomly on a whim last year after reading about a Dimension 20 character that was based on the character Tracy Flick, and I was like, oh, this is this classic film character. I've never seen this film. Let me check it out. Loved it, adored it. On second watch, I got a little bit anxious of like, was it as good as I remember? But it's a very fun watch. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on it.
So I've been hearing about this movie for like a decade. Like it's definitely in like the film nerd circle. Like it comes up on multiple podcasts. People are always like really excited about it. It came up a lot a few years ago when The Holdovers was coming out because it's the same director, Alexander Payne, and definitely like a movie nerd's movie in the sense that I didn't know this, but Election was like not a terribly big hit. In fact, it kind of bombed when it came out, and because I've spent the last 10 years like hearing about it as like, oh, Election's great, this amazing 90s, like late 90s comedy, I was surprised to know that it did like really poorly. Because it's great. It is like very well written and very funny, and these are like some very classic characters that I think have expanded almost beyond the size of the movie. Like I've always heard of the character of Tracy Flick, and I've seen like the buttons around, and I've seen some unfavorable comparisons to modern day politicians, and I've heard Obama talk about this movie. Like it's weird how prevalent this movie is, considering it was actually like a pretty small satire that didn't succeed when it came out, at least financially.
Yeah, no, that is very interesting and surprising. I don't know. It's giving like oh my god, what's it called? Jennifer's Body, where everyone I don't know why that's my poll.
Allegorical cult movie that people like but didn't really succeed.
Yeah, everyone like hated on release, and then like years later, like, wow, this is like really good commentary or whatever. Like that's the vibes I'm sure there's a lot better examples, but that's my world.
No, I think that's a comparable example.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone hated Election when it came out. Like I think it was critically, it did well. It got an Oscar nomination, which is pretty impressive for like a small movie. For screenplay, which I agree with. Like that's probably the strongest part of the movie. And I think it like had a big part in launching Reese Witherspoon, her career, and I think she went on to do like much bigger things because of this movie. None of that's how I feel about it. So let me actually get into that a little bit and answer your question. I really enjoyed it. It's laugh out loud funny at times, and then it's otherwise like very intellectually engaging at the same time. Like I'm constantly going back and forth on like who I'm trusting scene to scene, because they're all unreliable as narrators, and the fact that this movie has 4 different narrators is really funny. And very like the way it uses narration and the way it uses like perspective is all super engaging and interesting and entertaining. And the characters are just like, they shine like diamonds, like chicken jockeys. They're just the most memorable people. Like I don't think of Matthew Broderick, Ferris Bueller. I think of Mr. M, and I don't think of like Reese Witherspoon, Big Little Lies, like famous actress throughout my entire life. I think Tracy Flick. Like it's very impressive what they do with like what is ultimately like an hour 40 movie, like a pretty quick, easy breezy comedy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like there's a lot of depth, and like I think it was based on a novel, which I think is probably like a lot of contribution to like just like how layered and well thought out like the characters feel. But like it's very like you said, like I think that the characters are all like memorable and kind of like lovable in their own ways. Like even Mr. M, who's like obviously despicable,
great
despicable
character.
toad, but it's hard not to kind of like there's something about that scene where he gives his class a. This is one of the most memorable scenes in the movie, I think, to me, is like when he gives his class a pop quiz and leaves the class for a period and runs off to the hotel, fills the sink with ice, puts the wine bottle in, is like laying out, like putting a rose inside of a book and like all this, like setting everything up for this like romantic getaway, sprinting back, getting stung by a bee. And then like, it's just like all like going through that like with such passion in a way that you've seen this man just be kind of like sloppy and lazy and dead inside, negligent towards everything throughout the whole film. It's like all of a sudden this like switch goes on. I don't know. It's very. I feel like all the characters are presented as very human with all their foibles, which I enjoy a lot.
Right. Well, like the movie is so interested in perspective, right? And so when you're in his head, you're like, yeah, he's got to hurry because he's got to get back to class, but he's got to set up this affair, and he's really, you know, like he really wants this to happen, and you have the weird like Fellini imagined thing where he's driving and he's Italian and he's like driving on both lanes, and
that
it's exciting to see the character excited about something because he's such a doofus throughout so much of the movie.
Yeah, no, even
though he's
crazy.
excited about his affair.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's doing the like most despicable things ever, but they like, I don't know. I feel like there's some element of like relatability that they give him that's just like you can't shake. I don't know. Like as
well, I think
horrible
and
petty
imagine
as he
in, like,
is.
99, casting Matthew Broderick was like such a interesting choice because it's like we're gonna take Ferris Bueller and we're gonna make him the teacher in Ferris Bueller. We're gonna make like this guy who is inherently likable as like an on-screen personality, and we're gonna make him this like sniveling, like jealous, hypocritical character who is like fun to hate, but he's also like, oh, but it's Matthew Broderick, it's Ferris. Like I want to kind of root for him even though he's horrible, and he has so many. His most like damning moments are in like such small throwaway lines.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the case for like the entire movie, where like my opinion on Tracy Flick like flips back and forth constantly, and it's the same with him. And the only character who I am on the side of the entire movie is Paul. I love Paul so much, and even then it's like, well, Paul is would be terrible as the president, but he is like so endearing, and all of his just spacey attitude and his like constant reassuring presence, where like when he's on screen, everything about him is like he leaves everything on the field, right? Like in every conversation he's saying exactly what he means, and he's so
very genuine,
sincere, and there's no bit of he's so genuine. That's a great word for it.
And I think it's also like the characters, like the thing that I love about this movie, and is something that like I've definitely like spotted as a pattern across different media, is like unreliable narrators, and like saying one thing, lying to yourself, I guess, like justifying it in one way and then like doing another thing. And I think he is
there's a lot
like
of that at the end of this movie.
And it's like it's very interesting because I think all four narrators kind of have their own version of that, where like, you know, like Mr. McAllister is like obviously like, you know, the like trying to see the positive side of it, trying to just like rewrite and smooth over like the bumps and like his thing to like paint some sort of optimistic arc to his like increasingly wretched existence.
Right. He's like, I have a great job. I have a great relationship with my wife. And then like they're only seen together when things are going like well is them awkwardly sitting in a quiet dinner table.
They can't talk.
Like, not, and him lying to her about what's on his mind.
We've had our highs and lows, and they're just like quietly like cutting the vegetables, like, and then Tracy kind of has like I feel like a similar thing of like just like, you might think I was mad about this or I was mad about that, but actually I'm not. Like that's like the most common, like, you might think this upset me or this hurt me, but I actually thought it was like when he's like, you know, when she finally filed for divorce, it was finally a new start for me. I thought it would finally, like, no matter what bad thing happens to them, they just like flip it. And I think the one thing that Paul does is, like, I feel like he's the most able to say when something sucks, like admit, like, like when he gets broken up with, or when he doesn't win the election, or when like his sister won't talk to him, or like he breaks his leg or whatever. Like he's like straightforward about, like, yeah, I was pretty sad about that, but then, like,
right,
kind of, you know, like he grieves losses, like, in maybe a healthier way. That's kind of something I picked up on, I feel like.
But I can totally understand why the characters hate him, or why Tracy specifically hates him, right? Because it's like, he literally tumbles into success constantly.
Yes.
Like, he breaks his leg, and then that puts him in the position to run for president, and he's got the teacher backing him against her, even though she's put in all the legwork.
Like, seating him. Yeah.
And even when things go wrong for him because of this whole scandal, like, he comes out looking good compared to all the other characters, and he just goes to a state school and throws a big Cinco de Mayo party.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, he's like, I still won, like, like homecoming king and prom king. Like,
yeah.
It's like, the resume is still long of, like, him being the main character of this high school. I thought, like, one of the most, I had a big Paul watch, because I was very curious about Paul, and I had like a weird impression of him on my first watch, where I kind of had this weird fan theory kind of thing of, like, almost thinking that he might go down a darker path in the future. I don't know if this is true. I think as of this watch, I don't really feel that way as strongly anymore, but I feel like I should just put my thoughts out there. But, like, there's something to, like, the way it ends. Like, I feel like his big flaw in a way is, like, his kind of, like, naivete in a way. Naivete.
Yes, his naivete. If he's dumb as a bag of rocks, right?
Yeah,
so, like,
but, like, almost to an extent, because I was kind of, like, paying attention to stuff of, like, he, like, yes, he is, like, this, like, comedically dumb written character, but there's also, like, this, like, extent to which, like, his refusal to, I don't know if it's a refusal, I guess. I feel like it's kind of treated as, like, he's just too dumb to, like, notice certain things going on, but, like, him, like, not kind of, like, engaging with the bigger picture and, like, not really being, like, I guess, curious about certain stuff, like, leads to him getting taken advantage of by, like, Lisa, leads to him getting taken advantage of by Mr. McAllister, leads to him just, like, getting shunted this way and that, and he ends up, like, both Lisa and Mr. M, like, getting kind of used and then, like, discarded of, like, when he's outdone his purpose, I guess. And it's like,
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe it's too negative of a view to take on the character, and I feel like the movie does mostly want you to just kind of be like, oh yeah, you know, he's like a gullible. But I was just kind of, like, thinking of that as, like, it was interesting to, like, think of that as a flaw, as, like, a character flaw that, like, ends up creating, like, his problems throughout the movie, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, he's easy to be taken advantage of, right? So if this was a real if he was a real politician, this was a real election that actually mattered, that's a dangerous person to be in office or to be like the president, because, like, this is all allegorical to that. Like, you don't want I wrote this down. I was going to say this for later, but, like, let's talk about Paul's platform, right? When he talks to Mr. M in the one day that he's president.
Yeah.
He wants a carnival with lots of rides and a haunted house, but, like, actually scary.
Whoa.
Incredible. Unbelievable. And he wants to do a new theme for the homecoming, but we don't get to hear what it is. But just, like, he's all ideas, right, and no execution. Whereas Tracy Flick would be like, well, we can't have a carnival because that would be too expensive. But if we adjust the budgets in this way, we can maybe have, like, extra gum available in the library. You know, like it's all pragmatism and it's all like within reality, but it also is like lame and not exciting or a person you really want to like root for.
And that's where like Tracy Flick is like the most sympathetic, is like when she's staying like late after hours, like during the yearbook, like you know, like, and she's like having to put up her own posters despite her short stature, versus like Paul, just like a whole team just shows up to do everything for him because, you know, like
even though he hasn't
she has
earned
to claw for everything.
Like she put in all the work. Like, I should be the president. I did all the work, but then this guy comes in and is just popular.
Yes. No, absolutely.
I did a little research on this movie and like the background behind it, right? And it's based on that book, like you said.
Right.
And then that book was based on essentially like a reaction to the 1992 U.S. election.
Yes.
Which was Ross Perot, Bush Sr., and Bill Clinton. And so when you think of like who's who in that, I think the idea is like Bush Sr. is like a super straight-laced politician, like by the numbers, pretty boring, pretty uninspiring, seems to be like the Tracy Flick character, whereas Bill Clinton is like kind of dumb, kind of destructive in terms of if he was actually like a leader, but is like insanely popular. Like it's like he plays the saxophone. He was the football star. Like he seems the most. I don't think any of them fit 1-to-1 with these people, but like he seems the most like Paul. And then Paul's sister, who's Tammy, is like the Ross Perot figure of like comes in, disrupts the entire election, and maybe doesn't necessarily have a strong point to make.
Yeah. But people back her. She's very interesting.
She's great.
I don't want to lose, because I feel like we want to talk about all four of these main characters in depth. So I don't want to lose the.
I want to plug them into every election, so we can just like pepper that throughout.
Yeah, let's quiz.
It's insane how prescient this movie
find
is.
The Paul
like, immediately.
Yeah,
like right after like
Tammy.
This movie comes out in 1999. In 2000, you immediately have Bush Gore, and like. We all know how that went, and it's insane how, like, the American equivalent of, like, parliamentary procedure essentially, like, swings that election one way or the other. Like, you get into, like, the hanging chads and the Electoral College and, like, the little cracks in the system that result in that scenario, I think the Republican is Paul. Like, the George Bush Jr. is more of, like, a Paul, or, like, this guy who's kind of a fuck up and kind of a dunce becomes president. But yeah, anyway, like we can get into that in a bit, but you want to talk about Tammy some.
Yeah. Well, oh no, I was saying I really want to talk about Tammy, but I want to like keep going through the Paul conversation just because I feel like we'll go through all four. So I'm afraid to get dragged into her as well. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Quick rapid fire, like Paul is Clinton, Bill Clinton, Bush Jr., and Trump. Like, if you had to, like, assign him to someone in each of those elections, it's like, who does he fit with? And I guess Obama, if you wanted to pick him over McCain,
charisma,
like that's the election I kind of forget about.
Yeah, like, charisma and genuineness and style over substance or whatever, if you want to call it that, even though it's
the thing
not
people like
that.
about...
Yeah.
But maybe... too disruptive. Like Obama's the most straight-laced of those examples, but like takes big swings, and you know there's a big effort right now to apply like Silicon Valley bullshit magic into like politics of like the go fast and break stuff, I think is like the famous Facebook methodology, and like that has been applied all throughout Silicon Valley, and all that's going great. None of those companies are bullshit and like
it certainly has broken stuff.
Engaging in tons of fraud. It all works itself out really easily, and no one gets hurt and nothing bad happens. That's all being applied right now to American politics. Obviously, like Elon Musk is. I think the current metaphor is I'm going to take a chainsaw through the American government, and boy, they are.
Yeah.
And you know, it kind of hurts the tree when you think about it. But I think Paul to me is a lot closer to those figures than a Hillary Clinton-esque or Bush Senior-esque, like, we're going to do this through Congress and policy and incremental changes. Like, that all feels like the, like, work hard and maybe slowly make change of, like, the Tracy Flick character. But I agree with Tammy that, like, this is all bullshit and it means nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk. We can circle back to anything else. We got to talk about Tammy. Sam,
Sure.
you sent a very good message to me when you were watching this movie.
I did.
Which is that you did not expect for Doom Yuri to occur during this like 90s movie.
It happened very quickly, and I was like, oh, that's an aspect of this movie I didn't know was going to happen. And yeah, doomed Yuri all throughout election.
I think that was the thing that tipped me over the scales of like me being curious, reading about it, and then reading about Tammy was like the thing that made me like, okay, I'm gonna check this out. Like, I'm curious.
I love how realistically everything is the biggest thing in her life, right? Like this relationship with a person who is maybe not even a lesbian, or seems seemingly very much not a lesbian. That relationship, like, she's putting all of her life and all of her stock into it, and she's writing cringe poetry, and she's like looking longingly at someone who doesn't even think of her at all. You know, it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so high school.
Such a sweet angel. It's interesting. I definitely interpreted her as like bisexual or
Linda.
just like, yeah, Linda, or as doing the like compulsory heterosexuality thing, and like that's probably the darkest interpretation.
No, that was what I thought the movie was going to go to originally, but then she ends up with the Paul's friend, and it seems like like she's just bisexual, or even like
just not.
It was really heterosexual and is just like experimenting.
Yeah, no, it totally could have been that as well, but I think because of the way like that she like in their like breakup conversation, even though were they really dating, like it seems like she's talking about like, it seems like the fear of like standing out and like wanting to be conformist is like one of the biggest things that like drives the wedge between them. Like it's Tammy having her like the photos of them like kissing each other on the cheek like in her locker, and it's like her wanting to be like more and more public, but it's also Tammy, like I feel like they show her reaction when Tammy like leaves a note to her that just says like, if you died, I would throw myself into like a cement quarry, and she's immediately horrified.
I want to be thrown in my dad's cement mixer and poured into your tomb.
Angel, and it's like
cringe.
It's so funny. And she's just like, yeah, she's like, I don't know, I found new ways to express my love to her every day. Like, and then she's like, I don't know, did I do something wrong?
Doesn't want a girlfriend for the social parts of it, is that she doesn't want a clingy girlfriend.
She doesn't want a obsessive, like, just, you know, filling the void type of person. And then it's such a beautiful, like, there's a thing, like, because there's another thing where they're like, okay, we really want to associate like Mr. M with like circles, and like the idea of this person like going in a circle and being like trapped in this loop, and I feel like that applies to just about every, like, even though I feel like they're like, and Tracy Flick's the line, and there's probably some nuance to get into there. Like, it feels like all the characters are kind of going in circles in a way, and she is one of the most beautiful examples of it. Of like, you know, she goes to this new school, and it's the all-girls school. It's like the Catholic school, and yet she's like somehow just like having even more freedom.
I thought that was just a crack at like the whole like trope of like lesbians in Catholic school thing. Like, I thought that
definitely
was
that too.
It's like, oh, she got sent to paradise as punishment.
Yeah, no, that was really fair. But then, the way that they do the like sequence with like this new girl that she's like crushing on, like, and like their relationship, and like how it mirrors like exactly what she said about the previous girl, and like there's a shot of the girl on the swings that's like filmed exactly the same way or whatever, of them like swinging together and laughing, and it's just like, oh, Tammy, like you're in for so much more. Like this is not gonna be
I
the
think
last
it's just
time
that
you
Tammy
do this.
is shallow, and it's not like a dig at Tammy. It's just that they're all shallow because they're all high schoolers,
Yes,
right? Like
yes,
I think
yes,
I don't think
yes.
it's meant to be like.
Mm,
I think it's just meant to be a joke at the expense of like young love and how frivolous it is.
yeah, I don't know. Sweet,
Like she
sweet
seems ready
angel.
to fall in love with like any girl that she sits next to in a class, and that's just
Yeah,
what
like
being
any
a
girl that
teenager
pays
is.
attention to her.
Right.
I love her a lot. God, where do we go next? There's so much fun stuff to talk about in this movie. I feel like
I want to hit me with some of your favorites.
okay.
I'll hear about this. So this movie
Okay.
to me is like a series of really killer lines, like laugh out loud funny moments.
Yes.
I want to hear some of your favorite like quotes from the movie, if you can recall any.
Okay. I honestly, some of the two that come to mind are not quotes. They're just like things you see. They're like visual gags.
Works too.
One of them is like one of the earliest scenes in the movie, and this janitor character who has no lines of dialogue, but this guy's face is phenomenal. The amount of like upset, just anger, and like it's just so, just I don't know. It's masterful facial acting. He never speaks in the movie, but he has such an outsized like room. Like he takes up so much space in my mind when I think about it. That's one of my favorites.
I love that he never speaks in
yeah.
both scenes, but he's just in the corner in the principal's office at the
He
end.
doesn't
You're
have
like,
to
oh,
say
no.
anything. Like you know.
They didn't even need to do the flashback to the Chinese carton, but I love that they do. 'Cause
No.
it's so quick.
It's so big in your mind when it happens. You're just like, wow. Like it's such a memorable
The
thing
janitor
that
will
you're.
remember that.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's beautiful the way it's like the ultimate twist. But I think also the Dave Novotny, the certified
The
pedophile.
predator.
Um,
The predator for comedic effect.
yeah, the part at the end where it's kind of doing like their ending monologues, and Tracy's like, I still feel so lonely sometimes, and like I think about Dave. I wonder how he's doing now. And it cuts to him in like a Michaels or something, like with the stamp going just like that.
It's so
slays.
funny that she has the only person that she respects in the whole movie is this like deadbeat idiot.
This total fuck up. I want to talk about him. He is insane. Like just the way they introduce like his first appearance in line on screen is being like her pussy is so wet or something, whatever the fuck he says.
That is that's definitely a moment. It's like 10 minutes into the movie and you're like, oh, this is a different movie than I thought it was. Like this is gonna go places.
And it's so, I think that line is so effective. Like it's gross and it hits you, but it is kind of over after that. Like I don't feel like they retread that. Like,
it then becomes into like the puppy dog stuff with him.
Yes.
Just telling Mr. M how in love he is, and then him like breaking down in front of the principal and being like, what he's concerned about isn't the fact that he's about to go to jail or be fired. It's the fact that like, but she does love me, right?
Real love. And like
that performance is really good. Like it's crazy to me that like that's a character I enjoy in this movie, even though he's a despicable like predator.
No, his like eyes welled up with tears, and he's like, God, the line about the novel got me, where he's like she wants to read my novel. He's like, you haven't written your novel. Exactly.
That's the point. She inspires me to want to write it so that she'll read it. It's so, oh, what an idiot! But I love him. Like,
oh,
it's crazy.
Moron. I think,
and I love that he's in like a deadbeat garage band in like his late 30s or early 40s. Like that is such like a pinpoint accurate like burnout teacher detail. Like it's perfect.
It's so interesting. I think it's like. Every time we're bringing up anything in this movie, I'm like, oh, there's 3 different ways I want to talk about. Like that's why I keep.
Right.
But like the I guess the like masculinity side of it, like I think, because like this whole movie is like very like gender aware. Like it's very like much a commentary on like the like I think the author was saying like part of the impetus for the novel is these women who are like a power driven woman. Like what does that do to like
an emasculated man and destroys him mentally, apparently.
Yeah. And like and Mr. M feels like built to be the perfect like antagonist to like where Tracy just like awakens all these things. But I don't know, the masculine ideals I guess are so interesting, of like how Mr. M clearly looks up to like Novotny. Like he like clearly is like, oh, he's cool, he was cool in high school. Like we don't hear about Mr. M's high school days, but I have to assume he was like a dork, like he was a nerd,
right?
And like
he's the Tracy Flick of like the underachiever,
yes,
like a burnout adult, right? Like I won the teacher award like 3 years, which is a new school record. Like he is
yeah
he's good at his job, but he's also like a horrible mentor. Like he's very self-serving in his own head. He can't get over this like dichotomy of like what he's saying about how he perceives his life and what his life is actually like, and that like those two things not being aligned is what's like ultimately like destroying him as he watches this like rising star like shoot past him. All that jealousy like is bubbling on the surface.
Absolutely. But it's so interesting the way of like, I think with like Novotny, he kind of like invites him into like these more masculine, like the playing the band together scene is like so short, and such a like the fact that you brought it up, like, and that I remember so clearly as well. It's like such a short scene, but it's like such a good establishing of like the acting of like him just like nervously kind of like playing the bass and like following his lead or whatever.
Right.
And like, but then you also like he's perfectly casted, this dude with like this like old dude with this widow's peak who's just like being like, yeah, you know, and you're like, he's not cool, but like that's cool.
Yeah, like you can't see it because they're
M.
shot from like the waist up, but I'm assuming that he has like chains on his jeans, you know?
No, for sure. Yeah, like it's and like so quickly, like even though if anyone in the audience had any delusions that he is like somehow this masculine ideal or whatever, it's so quickly stripped away with like the babbling crying scenes and the like, you know,
the book
pathetic.
That he writes her that her mother finds is incredible. Like it's his handwriting looks like a 5-year-old's. Oh man.
Yeah, and it's also like I feel like it gets really into, this was like the other thing I want to like, I think this movie like got like, I was just so on board right away with like the way it depicted like predation, I guess, and like it's such an interestingly done, it's like there's spades of subtext going on, and it's like, I think to us like woke millennials, we're like, yes, like we're Me Too movemented, like we pick up on what's going on. I think we're more sensitive
to it
yeah
than like audiences would have been in 99, but like all of the seeds are there throughout. Like even when the first montage when Mr. M is breaking down his life and how great of a teacher he is, he talks about like, and even some students can confide in me. It's telling that like the student who's confiding in him is a girl, and she's breaking down and crying, and what does he do? He puts a hand on her shoulder, and it's like, that's can be innocent, but it's telling that like that's what he does, and I think it's like setting the seeds, because very shortly after you find out that he's not happy about what his friend is doing, but he's also not going to turn him in, right?
Yeah.
And it's so, and then when you break that down to like the administration's reaction, like every scene with the principal is concerned with like the reputation of the school, not with the crime being done. And so like, why is Mr. Navarro's buddy in the room where he's being fired for sleeping with a student? Like that doesn't make any sense. And it's like,
so weird.
It's just treated casually in the movie, but like it's saying something deeper with what is being done by the administration and how like
Totally.
the lackadaisical like sweep everything under the rug is resulting in like people being abused or hurt or what have you.
Yeah, and like he gets fired obviously, but it is also like he doesn't get in any legal trouble. He doesn't go to jail. Right. He doesn't get he's not going to be on any registry. Not that I even think they had as much of a like. I mean, I don't know the history of.
I think they had like a predator registry then, but they didn't. I think that story was more of a novelty, whereas now like teacher sleeping with student is like instant scandal, like bigger scandal than it even then.
Yeah. So, and like, I don't know, he does kind of just like, okay, like just walk off at the end of it in a way. But like, I think it is like, to me, I think I got so much more invested in like because there's the McAllister of it all and like the whole like suppressed desire thing that's going on there. But like, even just Novotny is like so interesting to me of like the way they show. Like, it's really, like, the scene where they're sitting at the table after, like, debate team or whatever, and he's, like, it's, like, it does, like, a time lapse where it shows, like, 3 or 4 shots of, like, panning as, like, students are leaving until it's finally just the two of them, and he snakes around the table to her. Yes. Like, it's, like, it's strategic, and it's, like, she does not move, and, like, he keeps moving seats until he's finally, like, sitting right next to her, and they're the last two, and it's, like... There's like subtle details, like it's because I checked the lines for this, and it's great. Like, she's like, you know, we first met in like my sophomore year when I like signed up for his class or whatever. It was professional at that time, but then our junior year, like it started to like, you know, heat up or whatever. So she's known him for 2 years, and then he leans over and he goes, you know, I've had my eye on you for the past 3 years. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like I don't know. So
there was a moment
much
where her narration is like missing the point of the scene, where like, or the scene is contradicting her narration, where like they are in a hallway and they go into a bedroom and presumably are about to have sex for the first time, and all she's saying in the narration is like, and the thing I loved most about it is our conversations. It's like,
I loved our talks,
man.
Yeah, and it's like that scene is like haunting because it's like there's like this faint pink glow coming from the room as she's like walking down, and just like this like hairy arm like reaching out, and she's just being like, I loved her talks. Meanwhile, we already know at that point, like what does Novotny talk about? He's like, her pussy or whatever. It's like, you know, like
for him it's all physical and sexual, although he claims otherwise, but like he's too shallow to really like. It's fascinating that character, that Tracy Flick, is so easy to take advantage of because she's so lonely, right? Like that, even though he is clearly like as dumb as a Paul type character, just the fact that he's older, it makes her feel more. It seems seemingly like that's the reason that she feels like engaged by this relationship, because it's like, oh well, an adult is taking me seriously and is listening to my problems and is treating me like a peer, and that to her seems to be, it's the trade-off that she's willing to make to like enter into a scandalous relationship with this guy.
Like, I think
otherwise very intelligent character is making such a like boneheaded decision.
Totally. And it's also like, you know, he feeds her these like compliments when he's like first like crossing this line. Like he knows exactly like the words to say really to hard. Kind of like butter her up, and like, you know, and it's I don't know, it's like so sinister. And then it's like then you have like Mr. M, like he doesn't outright say it as far as I know. He kind of does in the like, there's a scene like later in the movie where like they're arguing and like being like, if certain teachers were in certain relation and if certain students like where he kind of says it. Like how
throughout this movie, there's the moment where like the character loses me, for all of the characters, for most of the characters. And that moment is where he loses me, and then very quickly after is where she loses me, but I'll get into that in a second. Like, the fact that he's holding on to and victim blaming this girl for his friend being lost, and he's like, you don't know the effect you have on people. It's very much like a, well, you shouldn't have worn such a short skirt kind of like mindset that is like so outdated and even at the time is horrible, but it's like, it's fascinating how he doesn't mention Navarro for like 45 minutes of the movie, but then when it comes back, you're like, oh, he's been upset about that the entire time. And that's part of why he has this grudge against her.
Yeah. And it's also this like, that there feels like this underlying idea that it was like mutual or consensual in some way. And it's like, I feel like that's like an interesting way, because it's kind of echoed in the like affair between him and I'm forgetting the
Linda.
Linda, yes. Like where
Linda,
yeah, Linda. Like where there's a level of consent, I guess you could loosely call it. Like she does like agree to like certain things, and she is like getting something out of it. But I do think like, I think when she says I most enjoyed our talks, like she is like legitimately like serious about, like, because there's lines where she's like, you might think that I have daddy issues, but I don't. I just, this is one of the best lines.
Yeah.
I don't. I just like how he makes me feel safe and secure and protected. It's like, you know, like that's obviously like, you know, her saying one thing and it's a lie. I don't think she, like, I do get the impression that like she tolerated the sexual aspects of the relationship. It doesn't seem like she was what she was seeking out necessarily. Like it seems like,
there's
just
the moment where you think
attention.
he's giving her a beer and it's just a mug of root beer because he's like such a man-child.
Yeah.
But and like she takes a sip of it and she's like, oh, whatever, and like sets it down. It's right before they have sex, and it's like,
yeah, and he like puts the radio on, and she's just
right.
Going, okay. Like,
okay. Like, can we get this? There's a sense of like, can we get this over with so you can start like paying me compliments again, basically.
Yes. Like she is getting something out of it, but then you're also like, the power differentials and imbalance in the responsibility he should have to her as her teacher.
Right.
Like none of that is considered. It's just like, but you also, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like that.
No, it's meant for the
flagging her on a
technicality, but the characters are blind to it.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I feel like it kind of gets echoed with like Linda, where it's like the same kind of thing. Like he does so much for that relationship. Like he he like agrees to do all this stuff. He like plants the thought of the affair in her mind with like his weird off-color joke about like, should we get a room or whatever. And that's like one of the hardest scenes for me to watch the movie, where I'm just
incredibly awkward,
so cringy. And then like he goes to all this effort for everything. He like sets the time for like meeting up. He like sets up everything, and like it's like enough for, and he targets her because she's lonely after the divorce. Like that's like the
right,
you know. And it's like,
well, and so there's so many moments where it's like Mr. M could have gotten out of this, but there was just that one thing, and it's like he, especially with the actual like election subplot or the main plot, but like there's so many moments where it's like, if he just made this one decision, things would be better. Like the fact that he, after he's caught, he spends the whole day trying to call Linda instead of his wife. It's like, if he had called his wife and apologized, or stayed at the house after he walked in on the two of them talking and like was clearly caught, like there's like, okay, well maybe things could have gone better. And at the very
even
end
the
of
reaction,
the movie,
when he walks in on them, like he just goes, okay. And he just leaves.
I kind of love that reaction. It's like, I'm caught.
It
All
is
right.
crazy. He's just like, well, I'm not getting my way
to
this.
see himself as doing any wrongdoing is like ultimately like what continues to like sabotage him until he ruins his own life. But there's also a bit of like fate involved. Like if he hadn't seen Tracy in the window, I don't think he would have rigged the election. And like, even though he would have wanted to, right? I think he was like, oh, well, and he's saying in the narration, it's like, and then, you know, I got the same thing. Yeah. 1-1. All right. She's won by 1 vote. And then he sees her and he's like, fuck this. I have to like, I have to rig the vote. Let me ask you a question. I've been thinking about this all morning since watching this movie last night. Would it have been better for Tracy? I think we've been dancing around the Tracy conversation. I think that should like dominate the last bit of this podcast.
Let's hit it. Let's go.
Tracy talk.
Yes.
Would it have ultimately been better if he succeeded at rigging the election and was never caught, and if Tracy like lost, if he successfully like took her down a peg, would that make her a better person going forward? I was thinking about that a ton.
I don't know if that. I'm curious your thoughts, and like I guess I'll say, and you'll probably agree with me on this statement. I don't buy into Mr. M's idea of like someone needs to teach her a lesson. Like,
I'm not saying that he's
the
right
way
in
which
his motivations,
of course,
because they're clearly tied into like Navarro.
They're also
and his own
clearly
weird pseudosexual problems and what have you.
Yeah.
But I think there's a charitable reading of his actions, at least earlier on in the movie.
The reading he gives himself.
The reading he gives himself and he presents himself as, right? Where he's trying to intervene on this person who's going down the wrong path. Even though she is outwardly like successful, smart, what have you, she's got this like darkness in her, and you can tie that into like the poster tearing down scene, which is, again, that's coming back to it. That's where she lost me, was not that she lied about the poster tearing down, because it was like a moment of weakness, but it's her reaction to Tammy taking the fall for her, where she like screams at Tammy even though she knows that she's wrong and that Tammy's bailing her out.
I also remember that was so crazy because every character that, like, the three characters are Tammy, Mr. M, and like Tracy. All three of them know that it was actually Tracy. Like, Mr. M can read, like, he reads her reaction, like when, like, he reads the surprise on her face when he tells her that Tammy's taking the fall. He knows what's up. Like,
it's weirdly where he's being the best teacher, except for the part where they start like trading barbs at each other. But like leading into that, he's actually like not doing the right thing because the motivations are all weird, but he's like acting the most professional for like the only point
Tammy,
in the entire movie.
Like, he stands up for Tammy in like a few scenes in a row. They're like against the principal. Like, there's this weird, like, Tammy's conflict is like with the principal and not with Mr. M.
Right.
And he stands up for like fairness and his like actual values when it comes to that. Right. Because it's just
the
not
integrity
really
of the election. Like, we can't kick her out for frivolous reasons.
Because, I mean, like, Tammy wins, Paul wins, whatever, as long as Tracy like gets knocked down a peg, you know. But like, yeah, like that is also, I agree, it is weirdly where he's kind of like the most in the right. But yeah.
I think, like, if Tracy's heading for the presidency, right? Like, if this is like where it's going,
if she's Hillary Clinton,
she would be a better. If she's heading to be like Hillary Clinton, who actually wins in 2016, I think she would be a better Hillary Clinton, or a better like leader, better than Hillary Clinton, let's say, if she had lost that election and never found out about the subterfuge. And I think there's a few moments throughout that would like support that idea. The poster scene being one, right? That she's like going down this path of pragmatism, which is something that like Hillary Clinton was always accused of being like I'm gonna step on the like the backs of people in front of me to like get ahead, and I'm like a go-getter or a striver. Right. I wrote down just like initial thoughts of the movie, and one thing I wrote down is like the people who want to be leaders are probably not the people you want leading, and she embodies that to me, where she's like, even though she probably would be the best, she's easily would be the best leader of the three in terms of like the student body election, and probably
like
of
it
the
shows
entire
her in
country.
Student council, like running the meeting or whatever, and it's like, you know, like what would Tammy have done? just like, this is bullshit.
She's more effective than I want a haunted house but really scary, and we should just like be politically apathetic, man. But would she have been a great leader if she had actually been taken down a peg, right?
Yeah,
because all of the like
experiencing failure.
Yeah, experiencing failure and thinking it's legitimate failure. Like, her whole bit when she thinks she's about to win and she tells Paul, like, no hard feelings, essentially, no matter who wins, knowing that she's going to win, and then stands up anticipating it. Like, there's all these little moments where it's like, man, if you were treating this like you're outwardly treating this, where, like, you're, instead of putting on that facade, if there was a little bit more Paul in Tracy would be, like, the perfect leader. And she would have she would have been able to win and it not have come down to, like, a 50-50. I think the other, sorry, I know I've been talking a lot, but, like, the one last thing is the fact that she doesn't even consider voting for Paul, and that Paul doesn't even consider voting for himself. I think that says a lot about Tracy.
Paul's vote is the deciding vote for Tracy.
Exactly. But, like, she's so calculating where she's already thinking about the photo op after, and and she's already, like, planned that.
Yeah.
Even though Mr. M is wrong in his motivations, I think he's kind of right in the fact that, like, had she lost, she would maybe be a better person going forward, and maybe she'd be able to make friends at Georgetown, and maybe she wouldn't be getting in the limo with the Republican senator at the end, which has some weird overtones in its own way.
Yeah, I guess I'm not super, like... And that's what I was saying about, like, the circles and lines thing. Like, I don't know if I really articulated it, even though I'm pretty sure you're picking up what I'm putting down. Like, I feel like it's like the idea that Mr. McAllister is associated with circles, like, he just, like, goes and goes around. Tracy Flick is a line. She is inevitable. Like, her first line is about, like, destiny. Like, there's no use trying to get in the way. Like, she has this self-concept that I am going to be at the top, so she is just going to get to the top, you know? And it's, like, obviously... There's some darkness there, and I think she is just really kind of in a circle of her own, and, like, the undertones of this, like, Republican senator, like, putting his hand on her when they, like, you know, get into the limousine or whatever is, like, kind of feels like, okay, this, like, poor girl is continuing to, like, chase approval and chase power by any means necessary to, like, climb this ladder, you know? Like, I think, like we're all on the same page of, like, there's darkness there, and there's some, you know, she is lonely, she is prone to being taken advantage of, she is prone to, like, fits of rage and sadness related to, like, how invested she is in, like, these external outcomes and, like, her goals and stuff like that. I guess
she has a mean streak in the sense of, like, she's constantly referring to, like, the deadbeats and the rich kids and what have you. Like, she's got a chip on her shoulder that, if allowed to grow, could, you know, be very bad. It could make her, like, into a classist or what have you.
Right. And
pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's like I think the poster tearing scene comes, like, after. Like, I feel like the rage, even though it gets directed at Paul, sweet little angel, like, I feel like, Paul. Yeah, it is caused by Tammy, and, like, the threat that Tammy has everything and is like, this is all bullshit, let's throw it away, versus, because she's also a Metzler, versus, like, you know, she has nothing, like, she's coming from a poorer family and is in this, like, ruthless single mother, right, and, like, is in this, like, ruthless climb, and, like, I think that that I think that's where I feel the most, like, the treating of the other kids is, like, burnouts and stuff like that, the judgment, which is clearly, like, internalized judgment. She's working so hard to, like, get away from that, right? Yeah, like,
right. Mm-hmm. Well, you got to imagine so much of that comes from her mother, and, like, the one, of course, her mother only has, like, 2 scenes, and they're both very telling.
Yes.
There's, like, the tiger mom scene in the beginning of she's writing letters to famous women to, like, then, like, push all of her, like, repressed or,
icon.
Like, yeah, like, all of her expectations onto her daughter, right? Because she herself is, I think she was, like, a typist who became a paralegal. Like, she's a striver, but she wants her daughter to have even bigger jumps. And she's also, like, a single mother and what have you, a divorcee.
Right.
But then when Tracy loses, her mother instantly is like, well, if you'd just taken my advice and put up more posters, maybe you would have won. And, like, that is so, like, that's where I'm most sympathetic to Tracy, in the whole movie.
Yeah, I think they both hold this misguided belief, like it's something the mother seems to have handed down to her, that like there is a correct path. Like if you dot your
There's
I's
a correct
and cross
option,
your
and
T's,
it's Tracy.
yeah, if you dot your I's and cross your T's, you will get success. Like as long as you play by the rules of this like society where like the Principal Tammy scenes, I think, are like when they he's like, close the door. He's like, that little bitch. I love. By the way, it's so funny.
I love every scene with the principal is great. Like he's horrible, but it's like really funny.
He's really good. I think the conflict between the principal and Tammy feels like the actual real conflict is like, hey, this school is kind of bullshit, and like the standards or whatever, and like us doing our reputation, like it is kind of bullshit. Like that's the realest thing, because everyone like, Paul's just kind of like being shunted this way and that, and like is just kind of like nodding and saying yes to people, but like everyone else is just kind of in these like self-serving interests, and I think that like that's like the actual struggle is like the ultimate self-serving interest, which is maintaining the entire system. Like the principal is representing that as the person at the top of
he
this.
Is the status quo, the neoliberal or what have you. Like, let's keep things going exactly the same. Let's not disrupt anything.
And Tammy is like, she's not blossomed into like having any ideas about what the system should be, but she's the anarchist. Like she's just like, let's tear it down. So she's like the only like genuine threat of like change, I suppose.
But like, there is like there's some truth to what she's saying, right? Like
exactly
nothing about this election will make any students smarter or kinder. I thought that was a really interesting bit of her speech, where it's like, like all this, it's kind of the an extension of the scene with Mr. M where he's trying to convince Paul to run, and he draws an apple and he draws an orange, and he's like, they're both just circles. Like Republican, Democrat, no matter what you do, it's going to not have any difference, basically, is kind of the idea, or at least my interpretation of that scene. And her speech, I think, is like calcifying that. Like, whether Tammy wins or Paul wins or I win, your situation's not going to get any better. And that's like, it's a pretty, if everyone in the world believed that, then like that's bad. Like political apathy, I think, is bad, but also there's like easily like a nugget of truth there of like, I can sit here and be like, I wish a Democrat was in office right now instead of a Republican, but things wouldn't probably be that significantly different, and that's the problem.
It's
very
absolutely
good movie.
Yes, but to get back to the question of like, would it be good if Tracy Flick lost the election? I guess like, because I feel like I need a little bit of time to think of it. I don't know if her losing would have really changed her trajectory. Like I feel like it would have just made her be more resentful. Like even if like, like maybe it would have been different if she was running against another Tracy Flick. I don't know, but like the situation as it is, like running against Paul, like even if she didn't have like, Mr. M put him up to this, it's like, okay, I've like lost to the popular kid again. I think she already has that. Like I think she is who she is because she's been built like through like years of like staring over the fence at like the rich kids and like their big houses, and like
she rides the bus, he drives his truck in,
there's a deleted scene like, and I think it's like in the book where it's like she grew up like staring at like the factory that has like Metzler, the cement factory that says like Metzler on the side of it or something like that. Like, I don't know that like loss is like what she needs to learn. It's like I guess I kind of, this was a thought that I had that I think probably is the best answer, is like, because I just think of it as like a teacher. I'm like, how would I respond to that kind of student? Like, first of all, if there is a kid that is just like this, like raising their hand, I would never do what he does. It's so petty. It's funny, but it's just, he just looks around and tries to choose anyone that isn't her, because it's not fun, and it's ruining his game. It's ruining his like, his like leading people to the point.
Like I don't want to be on the Mr. M defense corner, but I will say like that kind of student does suck up all the oxygen in a room and kind of make it so that the students who are farther behind than her don't learn.
Right, using as an opportunity to show off.
And I remember being in high school classes where there's
Mm-hmm.
and I've been the Tracy Flick, I know the answer.
Yes.
Okay, we're not going to call on you, Sam, because we want some other kids to answer. I've had a teacher tell me that before. As a student, and it's it makes sense because you want the whole body to be the whole student body to be lifted up.
I think that thing that you said is we're going to call on other students, Sam, because we know you know the answer. I think the teacher saying that versus what he does
which is just be petty,
is night and day, because and it's kind of what I do in a way. I think when you see someone like that, it's it's very important to them that they are seen as smart and capable and that they know what's going on and
you have to acknowledge their hard work,
respected.
Right?
Yes,
respected
and
exactly.
approved of and stuff like that. They are seeking that approval, and I think just kind of the thing that you're trying to teach a kid like that is pass or fail, you have my approval. You're cool. Let's build a relationship. Let's try to get to know you. Let's build an appropriate student-teacher relationship with appropriate boundaries, but
none of that going on in this school.
Right. But let's make sure. I think the goal for a kid like that, I'm okay, when you're doing this, you're in fight or flight mode, and my goal is to get you out of fight or flight mode. So what I do, I make you feel safe and comfortable, and hopefully acclimate you to failure a little bit, but I'm not going to force you to fail. It's okay.
Right. It doesn't have to be an either or. It doesn't have to be in order to help these other kids learn the difference between morals and ethics, I need to really rudely ignore Tracy and make snide comments at her.
You can make a joke of it. You can be that's a great job, but I don't think you're getting you find that kid that's okay with being poked fun of him, but I don't think he gets it. Let's try and explain it, or that's too I feel I'll be oh wow, you're even smarter than me, let me explain it in terms I understand, that kind of thing. Just
but
ways
he's too rigid
to
do that.
Yeah, he just has this resentment towards her that is just so palpable whenever they're interacting, and she can sense it too, obviously, that she's being dismissed.
And she's very judgmental of him even before they start openly butting heads with each other.
Yes.
They're both wrong. He's more wrong, I think, ultimately in the entire movie, to be clear.
Yeah.
But let me plant that flag in the sand. He's an adult and she's a child, and that's
right.
Already makes it so that you should be judging them differently.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, it's almost his instincts are correct that she does need some sort of course correction, or else she's going to become what she ultimately does become, which is a no friends, annoying person at Georgetown, right?
Yeah.
And the rest of the people at Georgetown, her immediate assumption is, oh, they just got in on scholarships or word of mouth. She doesn't know that. Those 4 people sitting in her hallway, I call it her hallway even though it's a dorm, sitting in the dorm hallway, presumably intoxicated, they're having conversations with each other, right? They seem to be having those pretty dumb philosophical conversations that you have in college, but that is important to manifesting growth in a person, right?
Human,
is to be able to explore ideas freely and stupidly among friends, right? And she's going to continue to not lack that, so she's never going to have her worldviews challenged, which could ultimately result in her being a megalomaniac monster. But also, even still, probably a pretty good leader.
Yeah. But it's what is she needs a friend, and I think that's the thing.
Yes.
It's when you see a kid like that is because I feel also part of the job of a teacher is easing tensions between peers, right? So
right.
You're you see someone like that, you're okay, that kid is going to be very off-putting to most other kids. So
right.
You try to befriend and connect with them and ease those walls down and just because kind of like what you were saying is like she's very judgmental, right? It's like if she were to make a judgmental or like mean comment about another student, like obviously you have to like calm down on that kind of thing and nip that on the bud. And at the same time, if like other kids are doing that to her, you got to nip it in the bud, but you also got to have like the positives, like as much as possible creating a space for her to like make friends so that she's not always on the defensive, because that's what's gonna melt. Like I don't know, I'm getting all peace and love, but it's like love is what is gonna melt that. Like it's not like gonna be just trying to like butt heads with it, like and break her down.
All she needs the entire movie is like an adult to treat her with respect and without like ulterior motives, and she just never gets it.
No, absolutely. Like every like her mother, the principal, the teachers, like every adult that interacts with her has like something they want out of her. It's her mother, Mr. M, Navarro, the senator at the end, or like the congressperson at the end. Yeah,
like, it's just this perpetual cycle, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Speaking
of
cycles,
yeah.
You and I are trapped in a perpetual cycle of pitching each other on things that annoy us.
Yes.
Some would say this podcast is a bit of like a cycle of violence that never ends.
A little bit. We could be in a circle.
Unfortunately, the lawnmowers have started again, as they often do, every single day. Even though there's like no grass around me, they're going. So I'd probably pretty happy to wrap it up around there. Do you have any final thoughts about election before I rank it?
I'm looking at my little notes. I think that it's good that I like the sweet little election boy. The kid who like counted the votes.
I love him. Little civil servant who's upholding the good of the world.
And then he spits at Mr. McAllister's his car or whatever in the one scene. He has such big eyes.
That is the funniest line that Mr. M has in the whole movie, though. Is like,
yeah,
are you serious? We're not electing the fucking Pope here. It's like that's a pretty funny line.
It's good. I also the pornography that he watches like early on when he's like clearly like beginning his descent into like fantasy about Tracy.
Right.
Where the football, like the high school football player with the just like the widow's peak is so funny to me. It's like
the 25-year-olds playing high schoolers in the weird porn. Yeah,
and like that's like the whole thing, because like as much as we talk about like his, because there's the like clear motivations for like his jealousy and like resentment and like for what happened with his friend and like sexual frustration, all that kind of stuff, but like there is also just this underlying like he is defending something bigger, I feel like unknowingly, of just the status quo. Like he likes his women a certain way. He likes the girl crying that he can comfort. He does not like,
he wants to be the hero with like Linda, right, and make himself feel powerful or stronger or more exciting. Yeah,
he does not want women to be coming up and like taking those places of power and like acting selfishly.
Well, every sex
in a way
scene
that
he has
like
with his wife,
men are allowed to. Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Every sex scene he has with his wife, the minute she becomes like assertive in the scene where they're trying to conceive a child, right, like she keeps shouting "fill me up," which is, gotta admit, probably pretty turn off to anybody, but
probably
like
not helpful.
His face like drops every time.
Yeah,
and it's just like, yeah, he can't handle having like he can't handle this dynamic.
Yeah, like he's gotten, and like I think like for her, like he probably has fallen out of love with her because he's gotten too close and just like learned like too much of her humanity and like that she has her own desires and stuff. And then like
whenever they become a full person, he can't handle it, right? Whenever a woman becomes a full person. But
the same with Linda,
like
when
helpless person who can like jump in and save.
But then even like when she shoots him down the first time, and then he like comes back to talk to her, and he's just like, yeah, you know, she can be a little bit much sometimes. It's like that is actually what he's thinking. Like it's like, I don't know, he is a grade A misogynist at the end of the day. He is like that is just like ultimately clear in the way that like he responds to situations that are going on.
Well, that comment is in response to her turning him down for sex when he's like trying to take advantage of this like recently divorced single mother.
Yeah,
he's like, she's too uppity. Why would she like? Why would she be so mean about? I was just joking. I was just telling a joke, you know.
Yeah, and it's like, especially because like it's established that she's like good friends with his wife, and he's like, you wanna ruin her life, like yeah. Ugh, I don't know. Crazy
Is
guy.
right. All right,
Yeah.
I think I've hit on everything except for I have one last note, and that is the fact that at the end of the movie he moves to New York and the rent is really expensive and it's only $1,500. And I was like, no, psychic damage, election, why? That hurt pretty bad because it's supposed to be such a punchline. Like they do like a little typewriter sound and they show the figure, and I'm like, that's not that much, and it's New York City.
Crazy.
Life changes. Life comes at you fast, you know? As a country, as a person, as an adult, which I guess we are.
Yeah. Now eggs are $1,550.
Yeah, now eggs are $1,500 a month. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the tariffs to fix that. I'm sure that's going to happen.
Well, you know, ethics are one thing, but morals. So how are you going to rate this one?
You're just giving up. This whole podcast, you're just like, I'm going to hit the mic and that's the start of the show. And like, yeah, just every week I tear you down a little bit farther.
I'm like Paul when he reads this speech. He's like,
Today we watched Election, the movie by Alexander Payne in the 1999 comedy that is a political satire. I think it's really funny, actually, and I'm not going to use any periods in this conversation. And so anyway, when I have to rank it, I think I'd have to give it an A. Thank you.
An amazing score. A could stand for amazing, couldn't it? I think so. that's what he asks himself.
You know, when you think about it, A is the first letter in the alphabet.
He kills the rhetorical question. Like, he doesn't read it as a question and just like answers his own question immediately as part of one sentence. Beautiful.
And so I would like to help you. It's clear that Linda wrote the speech. It's what's so great about it.
Beautiful.
Oh man, good movie. Very good movie.
Yes.
It's A for me. It's A on the
rankings. Don't tell Tracy that there is an S option, because that would be very upsetting to her.
She would want a perfect score.
Yeah. But as long if we just tell her A and we don't show her the tier list, then she'll hopefully be satisfied. Sam, what are we watching?
All right, Mallory, I told you a little bit before we started that I had a few different options like kicking around, and I have the one I landed on, right, has a lot to do with you, because you are an American working and living in Japan. And so I imagine you have a lot of opinions on how people talk about living in Japan, how people fantasize about it or portray it online or treat it like the end-all be-all, right? Like the classic, like, American weeb wants to move to Japan and everything's better. Like, thing Japan, right? Which I'm guilty of at times, where I like Skip and Loafer, but not Heartstopper or what have you. Recently, two of the biggest YouTubers in the world, our biggest Twitch streamers as well, I guess, did a online series in Japan where a lot of these tropes came up. Are you laughing? Do you already know what I'm going with this?
I think so. I'm just.
You think you know?
Because before the podcast you were talking about like this might upset you in some ways or might like. If it's the YouTubers I think you're talking about, I generally like them what I know of them. So, but
yes. But you probably
the topic
won't like
itself,
this kind of style. Yeah.
The topic itself, like my heart rate has increased. I can feel beads of sweat forming because I do have some very, very strong opinions, and I'm like, well, guess I'm gonna share those with people.
So Michael Reeves and Ludwig Ågren recently did a trip to Japan where they said, we're going to ride motorcycles through Japan, and we're going to try and get from the southern point of Japan to the northern point. And they made it pretty hard on themselves. They said that we're not going to bring smartphones, we're not going to use expressways, and we're going to rely on our mediocre Japanese to get us from south to north, asking people for directions, doing things like trying to purchase a compass. Funny idea, potentially disruptive to the average Japanese life. I've seen a little bit of this series, but I don't follow. I follow Ludwig kind of closely. I listen to The Yard every week. It's a podcast I enjoy, but I haven't watched the whole thing. And from what I got from it, I was like, I bet Mallory would have a lot of opinions on the behavior of these YouTubers in Japan and generally that conversation. So Tip to Tip is the series that we are going to be watching next week.
Okay. Knowing that it's like okay, my general knowledge of these two people is generally I'm like, they seem cool.
Yes, this isn't like Logan Paul going to Japan.
Right.
Or his brother.
Yeah, like I've watched enough Michael Reeves I would say I'm a fan, or I follow more like Lily Pichu,
right.
Pokemon, like their
folks,
podcast. Right. Yeah, like they have a podcast recently called Sweet and Sour that I've been listening to. So I have like enough knowledge, and then like I had heard about this like
right. They've been talking about getting my motorcycle licenses and learning Japanese for like a couple of years at this point.
So I'm just kind of like, I think it's more like the way that you phrase, like, this is what the conversation's going to be about is the thing that made me sweat. But I'm like, well, we'll see, like, how it
Yes, I have
goes.
already some opinions about it in terms of, like, at times I think they could be potentially bad, but at other times I think it's like I think the ethics of doing this kind of, like, challenge and not annoying people or not being too disruptive, like where the line is drawn, I think is different for every person. It's almost like the conversation of like, is Mr. Beast evil or not is kind of like where I think about it. Like,
or like
using
can you
people
do like
as
a public prank
props,
comedy, I
yes,
guess.
exactly.
Yeah,
right. And this is definitely not that. Like, this isn't Logan Paul, or they're not throwing Pokeballs at people and shouting "Go Pikachu" or whatever, right? Like, this is definitely not in that extreme.
I think the thing that was going to make me have a heart attack is you were going to show me something where people like complain a lot about how Japan sucks, because I would probably be very mean to those people. But
because they
I'm
move
also
to Japan
assuming
and they're
that,
like, boo-hoo, I moved to a country that I don't fully understand.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of racist people that live here. But
I've heard you in the past complain about like both of these things, like complain about people who do move to Japan and are unhappy with it, and then also people who are like, Japan is the end all be all, incredible, amazing. And so I think there's a lot to talk about there.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
but we'll save that
we'll make
for next week.
Yes, it will make for an interesting conversation. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful American day, Sam.
I hope you have a wonderful Japanese evening, Mallory.